The stars twinkled like distant memories in the night sky of Illyria. Leora, a 10-year-old orphan with curious eyes that reflected those very stars, pressed her small hands against the transparent dome of the lower city. From this vantage point in the slums beneath the gleaming metropolis, she could see both worlds, the magnificent spires above where the elite dwelled, and the forgotten depths where she and others like her struggled to survive. "Tell me again about the Blue Star people," Leora whispered to herself. A bedtime story she had memorized from the scraps of forbidden tales passed among the children of the underworld. The Luminary Civilization Alliance had ruled the galaxy for millennia, with Illyria as its shining capital. Technology and art were revered as the highest values, and efficiency was the measure of worth. In this world, there was no place for ancient legends or stories of extinct species, especially humans, who had vanished so long ago that most believed they had never existed at all. But Leora believed. The abandoned tech scraps she collected and the snippets of old data files she managed to decrypt all pointed to something the Alliance denied, that once, long ago, there had been a species from a blue planet who had reached for the stars before disappearing into the void of history. That night, as she tinkered with her collection of salvaged communication devices in her tiny living pod, something extraordinary happened. A faint signal, unlike anything she had detected before, pulsed through her makeshift receiver. It was weak, intermittent, but unmistakably artificial. "Echo Omega," she whispered, reading the identifier code that flashed across her cracked screen. The ancient project designation was mentioned in fragments of data she had collected. Supposedly, a human venture. A seed ship sent into the depths of space millennia ago. With trembling fingers, Leora adjusted her equipment, enhancing the signal as best she could with her limited resources. Hours passed as she worked, foregoing sleep, foregoing food. Finally, just as the artificial dawn began to filter through the lower levels of the city, she had assembled a rudimentary transmitter from discarded components. Taking a deep breath, she sent a simple message back to the source of the signal. "We are still here." 3 words, transmitted in the ancient human language she had painstakingly pieced together from forbidden archives. 3 words that would change everything. Leora knew the risks. The tech enforcers, the policing arm of the Alliance, monitored all unauthorized communications. Discovery meant reconditioning at best, memory wipe at worst. But something inside her, perhaps the same curiosity that had driven humanity to the stars in the first place, would not let her remain silent. As the message transmitted into the void, Leora collapsed onto her sleeping mat, exhaustion finally claiming her. She dreamed of blue skies and voices answering from the darkness between stars. The next morning, Leora navigated the crowded undercity markets with practiced ease. Her small frame allowed her to slip between the towering forms of various species that made up the lower classes of Illyrian society. She was heading to her usual tech scrap dealer when a commotion near the central lift caught her attention. A young Illyrian male, dressed in the distinctive silver-blue uniform of the Engineering Guild, was arguing with a merchant. What made this unusual was that members of the upper city rarely ventured down to the slums. Curiosity piqued. Leora edged closer. "These components are substandard," the Illyrian was saying, his voice carrying the distinctive melodic accent of the educated class. "The resonance frequency is at least 30% below the specifications I provided." The merchant, a grizzled Norvan with 4 arms crossed defensively across his chest, growled in response. "That's top quality for down here, Academy boy. Go back to your shiny towers if you want better." Leora noticed something odd about the components they were discussing. They were similar to what she had used in her transmitter, but far more refined. Before she could retreat into the crowd, the Illyrian's iridescent eyes locked with hers, noticing her intense interest in the tech pieces. "You," he called out. "Child, do you know something about quantum resonators?" Leora froze. Interaction with upper city dwellers was dangerous, but the Illyrian's expression held no malice, only genuine curiosity, and something else she couldn't quite identify. Slowly, she approached. "They're not just substandard," she said quietly. "They're counterfeit. Real quantum resonators have a blue glow at the core node. These are painted to look that way." The Illyrian's eyes widened slightly. "Interesting." He turned back to the merchant. "It seems your wares have been assessed by an unexpected expert." The merchant sputtered in protest, but the Illyrian was already moving away, gesturing subtly for Leora to follow. After a moment's hesitation, she did. "My name is Erix," he said once they were away from the stall. "Fifth-generation engineer of Illyria. And you are remarkably knowledgeable for a slum rat?" Leora finished, a hint of defiance in her voice. A smile touched Erix's lips. "I was going to say for someone without formal training. What's your name?" "Leora." "Well, Leora, I'm in need of someone who can identify authentic tech components without setting off official monitoring systems. Would you be interested in assisting me? I can compensate you fairly." Leora hesitated. This could be a trap, but it could also be an opportunity to access better technology. Technology that might help her strengthen her connection to the mysterious Echo Omega signal. "What are you building?" she asked bluntly. Erix glanced around, then leaned closer. "Something I'm not supposed to be building. Something to prove that we're not alone in this universe, that we never were." Leora's heart raced. "You believe in them too? The Blue Star people?" Erix's expression grew serious. "Humans," he whispered, using the forbidden term. "And yes, I do. More than believe. I have evidence. Or at least, I will have. With your help." In that moment, Leora made a decision that would alter the course of history for two civilizations. She nodded. "I'll help you, but I have something to show you first." Over the next several weeks, an unlikely partnership formed. Erix, using his position as a fifth-generation engineer, provided Leora with access to better technology and protected her from the occasional tech enforcer patrol. In return, Leora shared her discovery of the Echo Omega signal and helped Erix improve his own communication array. They worked in an abandoned maintenance tunnel that Leora had converted into a secret workshop years ago. Here, surrounded by salvaged technology and illuminated by the soft glow of power cells, they enhanced the transmitter that had made first contact. The Luminary Council dismisses all theories about the signal's origin. Erix explained one evening as they calibrated the new transmitter. They claim it's either cosmic background radiation or a ploy by dissident factions. "But you don't believe that," Leora said, carefully soldering a connection in place. "No. I've studied the old archives, the ones they don't want us to access. There are too many references to humanity, too many artifacts that can't be explained otherwise." Erix paused, his expression troubled. "My advanced testing is next month. If I pass, I'll be promoted to the research division, with higher security clearance. But if they discover what I'm doing here, they'll recondition you," Leora finished. She had seen it happen to others who asked too many questions, the vacant eyes, the docile behavior afterward. "It's worth the risk," Erix said firmly. "The truth matters. History matters. And if humans still exist somewhere out there—" He gestured toward the ceiling, toward the stars beyond. "Then everything the Council has taught us is wrong," Leora concluded. As they worked, their signal grew stronger. Each night, Leora sent the same message: "We are still here." And each night, they waited for a response. It came 3 days before Erix's testing. A clear, structured signal pattern that could only be artificial in origin. As they decoded it together, their excitement was palpable. "It's coordinates," Erix breathed, staring at the displayed numbers. "And instructions for establishing a more secure communication channel." "From humans?" Leora asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I think so. But not directly. This response is automated, from a scout ship or probe that received our signal. Eric's fingers flew over the interface. If we follow these instructions, we might be able to wake whoever, or whatever, is on the other end. That night, they made a fateful decision. Using the provided protocol, they sent a specific activation sequence to the source of the signal. What they didn't know was that their enhanced transmissions had finally triggered alerts in the Alliance's security network. As dawn broke over Illyria, casting long shadows through the transparent upper city domes, tech enforcers began their descent into the Undercity, searching for the source of unauthorized deep space communications. Leora was the first to notice something was wrong. The usual market bustle had an undercurrent of tension, with more tech enforcer patrols visible than she had ever seen before. She hurried through back alleys toward their secret workshop, hoping to warn Eric's. She was nearly there when a heavy hand fell on her shoulder. Turning, she found herself facing not a tech enforcer, as she feared, but an elderly Illyrian female with stern features and calculating eyes. "You're being hunted, child," the stranger said without preamble. "And I know why. Come with me if you want to avoid capture." "Who are you?" Leora demanded, trying to pull away. "Someone who has been watching your work with great interest. My name is Saren. Dr. Saren, retired xenoarchaeologist." The woman's grip remained firm. "There's no time to explain here. Your friend Eric's is already waiting at my residence. The enforcers raided your workshop an hour ago." Leora's blood ran cold. "How do you know about—" "Because I've been monitoring the Echo Omega signal for decades," Dr. Saren interrupted. "Now come. We have much to discuss and precious little time." Dr. Saren's home was hidden in plain sight, a modest dwelling in the mid-levels of the city, unremarkable except for the extensive shielding that prevented electronic surveillance. Inside, Eric's paced nervously, relief washing over his features when he saw Leora. "They know," he said without preamble. "Somehow, they detected our enhanced signal." "Of course they did," Dr. Saren said, activating a complex security system at the entrance. "The question is not how they found you, but why they're so determined to silence you." She turned to face them both. "Tell me exactly what response you received from Echo Omega and what you sent back." As Leora and Eric's explained, Dr. Saren's expression grew increasingly grave. When they mentioned the activation sequence, she closed her eyes briefly, as if in pain. "You've awakened them," she whispered. "After all this time." "Awakened who?" Leora demanded. "The Seed Crew. Echo Omega was a generation ship, one of humanity's last desperate attempts to ensure their species' survival. It carried thousands of humans in suspended animation, along with the genetic material to create thousands more." Dr. Saren moved to a concealed panel in the wall, revealing an ancient data terminal. The ship was designed to travel for centuries if necessary, searching for a suitable world while its automated systems maintained the sleeping crew. "But that would mean humans have been out there all this time," Eric said, his voice filled with wonder. "Just sleeping." "Yes. And now, thanks to your activation signal, the ship's systems will begin reviving the command crew." Dr. Saren's fingers moved across the terminal, bringing up schematics that looked nothing like current Alliance technology. "We have perhaps 48 hours before they are fully conscious and able to respond, or to take action." "Action?" Leora asked. "What could they do? They must be so far away." Dr. Saren's laugh held no humor. "Child, Echo Omega is not some distant speck at the edge of the galaxy. It's been hiding in the shadow of Illyria's outermost moon for nearly 300 years, running silent, its presence masked by specialized countermeasures. The Alliance knows it's there, but has been unable to penetrate its defenses or identify it conclusively." "That's impossible," Eric's protested. "Our astronomical surveys would have—" Your astronomical surveys see what the Council wants them to see, Dr. Saren snapped. I know because I helped design the algorithms that filter the data. Her expression softened slightly at their shocked faces. Yes, I was once a loyal servant of the Alliance. I know their secrets, including why they fear humanity so much. Tell us, Leora said quietly. Tell us everything. And so, as night fell over Illyria, Dr. Saren revealed a history that had been systematically erased from the official records. How humanity had once been a founding member of what would become the Luminary Alliance. How philosophical differences had led to a schism, with humans advocating for expansion and diversity, while other species preferred stability and control. How, eventually, those differences had erupted into conflict. The humans were outnumbered but technologically innovative, Dr. Saren explained. When defeat seemed inevitable, they launched their seed ships, Echo Omega among them, as insurance for their species' survival. Then, they made their last stand at Earth, their homeworld. What happened to Earth? Leora asked, though something in her heart already knew the answer. It was neutralized, Dr. Saren said, unable to meet their eyes. The Alliance declared it a necessary action to prevent humanity from developing weapons that could threaten all sentient life. The official record states that no humans survived, that their extinction was regrettable but inevitable. But you knew different, Eric said. You knew about the seed ships. I discovered evidence of Echo Omega 60 years ago during an archaeological expedition to Earth's remains. Instead of reporting it, I began my own investigation. Dr. Saren's aged hands trembled slightly. What I found challenged everything I believed about our civilization, about the righteousness of the Alliance. I've spent decades searching for the ship, and for someone brave enough to help me make contact when I finally found it. Why didn't you reach out yourself? Leora asked. Dr. Saren's expression darkened. Because I'm a coward, she said simply. I feared the consequences. I still do. But seeing what you two have accomplished, she straightened her shoulders. Perhaps it's time to finally face my past. A sudden alert from the security system interrupted them. On the monitor, they could see tech enforcers conducting a sweep of the residential block. They're getting closer, Eric said grimly. We need to decide what to do next. We need to protect the humans, Leora said without hesitation. If the Council discovers they're waking up, they'll finish what they started millennia ago. Dr. Saren finished. Yes, but how do we protect a spaceship we can't reach, against the might of the entire Alliance? Leora's young face set in determination. We need to warn them. We need to establish direct communication before the Council finds a way to silence us. And then, Eric asked. Then, we help them survive, Leora said simply. Because that's what people do for each other. As Dr. Saren began assembling a more powerful communication array from components hidden throughout her home, Eric pulled Leora aside. Are you certain about this? He asked quietly. If we succeed, we'll be changing everything, challenging the foundation of the Alliance itself. Leora looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the determination that had driven her from the first moment she'd heard the signal. The foundation is already built on lies, she said. I'd rather live in truth, wouldn't you? Before Eric could respond, Dr. Saren called them over. It's ready, she announced. But we'll only get one chance to transmit before they trace the signal to this location. What should we say? Eric asked. Leora stepped forward. Let me, she said, taking the microphone component. When Dr. Saren nodded and activated the system, Leora spoke clearly into it. This is Leora of Illyria, to the humans of Echo Omega. You are in danger. The Luminary Alliance that destroyed Earth still exists, and will try to destroy you too when they confirm your presence. But you are not alone. There are those among us who remember humanity and want to help. Please respond with instructions for secure contact. She paused, then added softly, We are still here. And now, so are you. The message transmitted, encoded in the ancient human language she had learned from forbidden texts. For several long minutes, there was no response. Then, just as Dr. Saren began powering down the equipment, a reply came through. A woman's voice, distorted by distance and time, but unmistakably human, responded, Echo Omega Command Crew awakening protocols initiated. 4 members conscious. Receiving your warning. Stand by for secure communication protocols. Tears filled Leora's eyes as she heard the voice, proof that the legends were true, that humanity had survived in some form. But their elation was short-lived. Outside, the wail of Tech Enforcer alarms grew louder. They've traced us, Dr. Saren said grimly. We need to move. Now. Where can we go? Eric's asked. They'll have the spaceport monitored. The city exits blocked. Dr. Saren moved to another hidden panel, revealing a narrow passageway. There are advantages to being as old as I am, she said with a thin smile. I know this city's secrets, including ways to reach the surface that aren't on any official map. As they hurried through the dimly lit passage, Leora clutched the portable receiver they had hastily assembled to maintain contact with Echo Omega. The human voice had been real. Somewhere above them, orbiting the outermost moon of Illyria, actual living humans were awakening from a sleep that had lasted millennia. And the Luminary Council, the governing body that had declared humanity extinct, would do everything in its power to make that extinction a reality. Their escape route led them through forgotten maintenance tunnels, ancient sewers, and finally, up a series of emergency shafts that predated the current city configuration. By the time they emerged onto the surface of Illyria, in a restricted wilderness preservation zone outside the main city domes, night had fallen. The true sky of Illyria stretched above them, a vista few citizens ever saw without the filter of the protective domes. Stars blazed in unfamiliar patterns, and the largest of Illyria's 3 moons hung low on the horizon, a pale blue sphere marbled with white clouds. Somewhere there, Leora whispered, pointing toward the distant, barely visible outline of the outermost moon. They're waking up, and preparing to face a galaxy that tried to erase them from history, Eric's added solemnly. Dr. Saren led them to a small, well-hidden structure that blended almost perfectly with the surrounding rock formations. Inside was a sparse but functional living space and, more importantly, a sophisticated communications array far more powerful than anything they had used so far. My contingency plan, Dr. Saren explained, as she activated the systems. I've maintained this place for decades, waiting for exactly this situation. As the equipment hummed to life, the receiver Leora carried crackled with another transmission from Echo Omega. Leora of Illyria. This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth Continuity Mission Echo Omega. 6 crew members now conscious. Our systems show multiple scanning probes approaching our position. Please advise on local situation and Alliance capabilities. Dr. Saren took over the communication, explaining what they knew of the Alliance's current technological capabilities and defensive systems. As she spoke, Leora noticed Eric's standing at a viewport, his expression troubled. What is it? She asked, joining him. Look, he said, pointing toward the city. Even at this distance, they could see unusual activity, ships rising from the central spaceport, their formation clearly military in nature. They're mobilizing the defense fleet, Eric said, his voice tight with anxiety. This is beyond just tech enforcers now. The Council is treating this as a full-scale security threat. Can the human ship defend itself? Leora asked. I don't know. Echo Omega was built for deep space exploration, not combat. And even if it had defensive capabilities originally, who knows if they're still functional after all this time? Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Saren. "Commander Reyes wants to speak with you, Leora," she said, an odd note in her voice. She seems particularly interested in why a child was the one to make first contact. Leora approached the communication station nervously. "This is Leora," she said. "Leora." The human voice sounded clearer now, the connection strengthened by Dr. Saren's superior equipment. "Our records indicate that humanity was considered extinct in this region of space. Yet you reached out to us specifically. How did you know we existed?" Leora explained her fascination with the legends of the Blue Star people, her collection of forbidden knowledge, the faint signal she had detected. "Curiosity," Commander Reyes said when Leora finished. "That sounds very human of you." There was a pause. Then, "Our systems are detecting approaching vessels with weapon signatures. We have defensive capabilities, but activation risks escalating the situation. What do you suggest?" The question startled Leora. Why would the commander of an advanced human vessel ask for the opinion of a child she had just met? I don't think fighting is the answer," Leora said after a moment. "The Alliance fears you because they don't understand you, or because they only remember the conflict from before. If you attack, even in self-defense, you'll confirm their worst fears." "The child is right," Dr. Saren interjected. "The Alliance narrative portrays humans as dangerously aggressive. Any hostile action would play into that stereotype." "Then, what do you propose?" Commander Reyes asked. "We cannot simply allow ourselves to be destroyed." "Communication," Leora said firmly. "On a scale they can't ignore. Not just with the Council, but with everyone, all the citizens of the Alliance." "Impossible," Eric said. "The Council controls all public communication channels." "Not all of them," Dr. Saren said slowly. "There's the Emergency Planetary Network. It was designed to override all other systems in case of natural disasters or invasion. But that requires Council authorization codes," Eric objected. A thin smile crossed Dr. Saren's face. "Authorization codes that haven't changed in 50 years. Because no one ever expected them to be needed." She turned to the communications array. "Commander Reyes, if we can provide you access to a planet-wide communication system, would you be willing to attempt a peaceful approach first, to tell your story to all who will listen?" There was a long pause before the human commander responded. "My primary mission is the preservation of human life and culture. If there's a chance to accomplish that without bloodshed, I am obligated to try. Send the access codes." As Dr. Saren worked to infiltrate the emergency network, Leora felt a growing sense of trepidation. "What if they don't listen?" she asked quietly. "Then humanity will have tried peace one last time," Eric said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens next, you've already changed history. Leora, you found them when no one else was even looking." Within the hour, Dr. Saren had successfully bypassed the security protocols of the emergency network, all across Illyria and its colonial worlds. Regular transmissions were suddenly interrupted. View screens in public spaces, private residences, even official council chambers all displayed the same image: the face of Commander Elena Reyes, unmistakably human with her rounded features and varied skin tones unlike any Alliance species. "People of the Luminary Alliance," she began, her voice steady and clear. "I am Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth Continuity Mission. Contrary to what you may have been taught, humanity was not entirely eradicated millennia ago. Some of us survived, preserved in suspended animation aboard vessels like Echo Omega, waiting for a time when we might find a new home, or when the old conflicts might be forgotten." As she spoke, explaining the history of the mission and humanity's desperate bid for survival, reactions across Illyria were mixed. In the Undercity, where legends of the Blue Star people had persisted despite official suppression, crowds gathered around public screens with expressions of wonder. In the upper city, among the elite who had the most invested in the established order. There was confusion and fear. And in the council chambers, there was fury. "Cut the transmission," High Counselor Zarin demanded, his luminescent eyes flashing with anger. "And accelerate the fleet's approach to the human vessel. They must not be allowed to spread their poison further." But the transmission continued, resistant to all attempts to terminate it. Dr. Zarin had built in too many redundancies, rerouting the signal through dozens of backup systems. "We do not seek conflict," Commander Reyes continued. "We seek only to exist, to preserve what remains of Earth's legacy, and perhaps, in time, to share that legacy with others. Is that not what civilization itself is meant to do? Preserve knowledge, culture, understanding." Aboard Echo Omega, more of the crew continued to awaken from suspended animation. Their faces appeared briefly in the transmission, men and women of various ethnicities, all looking somewhat disoriented but determined. "We understand the fear our reappearance may cause," Commander Reyes concluded. "The historical records we carry show the tragedy of the Earth Alliance War in painful detail, but they also show what came before: cooperation, shared discovery, friendship between species. That is the humanity we have preserved. That is the humanity we offer to you now." The transmission ended, replaced by a simple text message repeating in all the major languages of the Alliance. "We await your response. We choose peace. Will you?" In the aftermath, the public response was immediate and overwhelming. The citizens of Illyria, many hearing the true history of humanity for the first time, began demonstrations demanding that the Council respond peacefully to the human overture. The privileged classes were divided, some clinging to the traditional narrative of human aggression, others questioning what they had been taught. The Council itself fell into disarray. Some members called for immediate military action, citing ancient protocols regarding human containment. Others urged caution, pointing out that public opinion had shifted dramatically overnight. And still, the Alliance fleet approached Echo Omega, weapons primed, awaiting final orders. In Dr. Zarin's hidden outpost, Leora paced anxiously as they monitored both official channels and the ongoing communications with Commander Reyes. "The Council is stalling," Dr. Zarin said grimly. "They're maintaining public discussions about peaceful options, while secretly preparing their attack." "How do you know?" Erix asked. "Because it's what I would have advised them to do, in my former role," she replied. Her expression haunted. "The fleet will strike when Echo Omega orbits to the far side of the moon, briefly out of public view. They'll claim it was self-defense or an accident. We have to warn them," Leora said, rushing to the communication console. But before she could send a message, a proximity alert sounded. Someone had found their hideout. Dr. Zarin checked the security monitors. "Tech enforcers," she confirmed. "At least a dozen, approaching from the east." "How did they find us?" Erix demanded. "They didn't," Dr. Zarin said, her voice suddenly calm. "I led them here." Before either Leora or Erix could react, Dr. Zarin had activated a hidden control panel. Energy barriers sprang up, separating her from the two younger companions. "What are you doing?" Leora cried, pressing her hands against the transparent but impenetrable barrier. "What I should have done 60 years ago," Dr. Zarin replied. "The right thing." She turned to the communications array. "Commander Reyes, this is Dr. Zarin. I need to confess something to you and to my young friends here." Over the next few minutes, as the tech enforcers drew closer to the outpost, Dr. Zarin revealed the full truth of her past. She had not merely discovered evidence of Echo Omega. She had been part of the original Alliance team that had detected its approach 3 centuries earlier. She had helped develop the technology that had kept it hidden from public knowledge, believing then that it was necessary to prevent panic and instability. "I told myself I was protecting the Alliance," she said, her voice thick with regret. "But in reality, I was complicit in perpetuating a lie. The lie that humanity was gone forever. That the Echo Omega project had failed like all the others. You betrayed them, Eric said, his voice hollow with disbelief. Yes. Dr. Saren's acknowledgement was simple, direct. Out of fear of human potential, of human unpredictability, the same fear that drives the Council now. She looked directly at Leora. But you showed me something I had forgotten, that humanity's greatest strength was never their technology or their adaptability. It was their hope, their willingness to reach out across the void, again and again, no matter how many times they were rebuffed or betrayed. The sound of tech enforcers attempting to breach the outer doors grew louder. "What have you done?" Leora asked, tears streaming down her face. "I've alerted the Council to my location, mine alone. The barrier separating us will funnel them to my position while keeping you hidden." Dr. Saren smiled sadly. "It's a poor atonement, but it's all I can offer now. That and this." She pressed a final sequence into the console before her. "Commander Reyes, I've just transmitted the override codes for the Alliance fleet's targeting systems. They won't be able to fire on Echo Omega for at least 48 hours. Enough time for public opinion to solidify in your favor, if you continue to show restraint." "Dr. Saren," the human commander's voice came through, concerned. "What will happen to you?" "Justice, long delayed," she replied simply. Then, to Leora and Eric's. "There's an escape tunnel beneath the floor panel marked with a blue triangle. It leads to an old emergency shuttle. It's pre-programmed with coordinates that will take you to Echo Omega if you choose to go there, or to a safe haven on the colony world of Nexus, if you prefer." The inner door began to glow red as the tech enforcers applied cutting tools. "Go now," Dr. Saren urged. "And remember what you've learned about humanity, about hope, and about the courage to face truth no matter how painful." As the tech enforcers broke through, Dr. Saren straightened her aged frame, facing them with dignity. Leora and Eric's, following her instructions, slipped into the hidden tunnel just as the enforcers stormed the room. The emergency shuttle was exactly where Dr. Saren had said it would be. A small, outdated vessel, but space-worthy. As Eric's prepared for launch, Leora sat in stunned silence, processing everything that had happened. "She sacrificed herself for us," she said finally. "For humans she never even met." "For the truth," Eric's corrected gently. "And for a chance to right an ancient wrong." He finished the pre-launch sequence and turned to her. "We need to decide, Echo Omega or Nexus." Leora closed her eyes briefly. "Considering. To go to Nexus would be safer, a chance to disappear, and perhaps survive whatever came next. To go to Echo Omega meant placing themselves directly in the center of a potential conflict that could reignite an ancient war. "Echo Omega," she said finally, opening her eyes. "We started this. We should see it through." Eric's nodded, setting the course. As the shuttle lifted off, accelerating toward the distant moon, Leora established contact with Commander Reyes, explaining what had happened and their decision to come aboard. "You'll be welcome here," the commander assured them. "Though I must warn you, our situation remains precarious. The Alliance fleet has withdrawn to a higher orbit, but continues to monitor us, and we face challenges of our own as more of our crew awakens." "What kind of challenges?" Eric's asked. "Cultural shock, for one," Commander Reyes replied. "Imagine falling asleep on Earth, surrounded by human civilization, and waking to discover everything you knew is gone, that your species is considered extinct, your homeworld destroyed, and millennia have passed." Leora had never considered that perspective before. "It must be terrible," she said softly. "It is. Some are handling it better than others. And then, there are the practical concerns. Our life support systems were designed for a journey of centuries, not millennia. Some critical components are failing." "I'm an engineer," Eric said immediately. I might be able to help adapt Alliance technology to your needs. And I know the history that's been hidden, Leora added. I can help your people understand what happened while they slept. As their shuttle approached Echo Omega, they got their first visual of the legendary vessel. It was unlike any ship in the Alliance fleet, larger in some dimensions, smaller in others, with an elegant design that somehow managed to look both ancient and futuristic simultaneously. Its hull bore scars from micrometeorite impacts and radiation exposure, testimony to its long journey through the void. Docking procedures were tense, with both Eric's and Leora uncertain what protocols to follow. But Echo Omega's automated systems guided them smoothly into a receiving bay, where Commander Reyes waited to greet them. Elena Reyes was tall for a human, with dark skin and tightly curled black hair streaked with gray. Her uniform, though clearly designed for functionality rather than appearance, bore insignia that Leora recognized from her studies of human artifacts, the emblem of Earth and symbols denoting leadership. Welcome aboard Echo Omega, she said, extending her hand in what Leora recognized as a traditional human greeting gesture. Hesitantly, Leora placed her much smaller hand in the commander's. Thank you for trusting us, Leora said. You reached out when no one else would, Commander Reyes replied simply. That counts for a great deal. Over the next several hours, Leora and Eric's were introduced to the awakened members of the Echo Omega command crew. There were 12 of them now, 6 men and 6 women, representing different regions of the long-lost Earth. Some regarded the Illyrian visitors with open curiosity, others with barely concealed suspicion. You must understand, explained Dr. Marcus Chen, the ship's chief medical officer, that our last memories of non-human species are not positive ones. The Alliance was bombing Earth when we departed. That was thousands of years ago, Arix pointed out. For you, perhaps. A woman introduced as Security Chief Talia Okafor responded coolly. For us, it might as well have been yesterday. Tensions ran high as discussions continued about what to do next. Some crew members advocated immediately activating more of the sleeper pods, waking the full complement of 2,000 colonists. Others argued for caution, wanting to ensure their safety and resources before reviving more people. And through it all, the Alliance fleet maintained its distance, but remained a constant presence, a reminder that the situation could deteriorate at any moment. On the 3rd day after their arrival, Leora found herself alone on the ship's observation deck. The vast window offered a spectacular view of Illyria below, its continents and oceans partially obscured by swirling cloud patterns. It looked peaceful from this distance, giving no hint of the turmoil her actions had caused. She was so absorbed in the view that she didn't notice Commander Reyes joining her until the human spoke. Beautiful, isn't it? Not unlike Earth, from what I remember. Leora nodded. I've never seen it from space before. No? Well, there's a first time for everything. The commander moved to stand beside her. You're troubled. It wasn't a question, but Leora answered anyway. I wanted to help, to do something important, but now I'm afraid I've made everything worse. The Council is still threatening you. Your crew is divided, and Dr. Saren, her voice broke, made her own choice. Commander Reyes finished gently. As did you. As did we all, long ago when we chose to sleep among the stars, rather than die fighting on Earth. She placed a hand on Leora's shoulder. Do you know what's kept humanity going throughout our history, despite all odds? Leora shook her head. Children like you, ones who look at the stars and wonder, ones who hear a faint signal in the darkness and choose to answer. The commander's smile was warm. That's why Echo Omega exists, because enough of us believed that somewhere, someday, someone might hear us calling across the void. Before Leora could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Commander Reyes immediately activated a communication panel. Report. "Alliance vessels changing formation," came the tense response from the bridge. "They're moving to surround us, and we're picking up a new transmission. It's planet-wide, on all frequencies." "Put it through," Commander Reyes ordered. The voice that emerged from the speakers was unfamiliar to Leora. Cold, authoritative, unmistakably that of a high-ranking council member. "Citizens of the Luminary Alliance, recent events have caused confusion and concern throughout our civilization. The reappearance of humans, a species long thought extinct, raises serious questions about our history and our future. After careful deliberation, the Council has determined that direct intervention is necessary to resolve this situation." Commander Reyes's expression hardened. "They're going to attack," she said quietly. "Despite everything, despite public opinion, they're going to finish what they started millennia ago." But the announcement continued. "Therefore, I, High Counselor Zarin, will personally lead a diplomatic delegation to the human vessel, Echo Omega. We will seek peaceful resolution to this historical conflict and determine how our civilizations may coexist moving forward." Stunned silence followed this unexpected declaration. "Is it a trap?" Leora wondered aloud. "Almost certainly," Commander Reyes replied, "but also an opportunity we can't afford to waste." The diplomatic meeting was arranged to take place aboard Echo Omega itself, a significant concession by the Council, which had initially insisted on neutral territory. Preparations were frantic, with the human crew doing everything possible to present their vessel and themselves in the best possible light. Leora found herself drafted into service as an informal cultural advisor, helping the humans understand current Alliance protocols and expectations. Erix, meanwhile, worked with the engineering team to ensure all systems were functioning optimally, both to make a good impression and to be prepared for any treachery. When the Council delegation arrived, the contrast between the species was stark. High Counselor Zarin and his entourage, 5 senior council members, and a contingent of tech enforcers, seemed almost ethereal with their tall, slender frames and iridescent skin compared to the solid, varied physicality of the humans. The formal meeting took place in Echo Omega's Central Assembly Chamber, a space designed for the entire colony population to gather once they reached their destination. Now, it held just 24 individuals whose decisions would shape the future of 2 civilizations. High Counselor Zarin spoke first, his melodic voice carrying easily through the chamber. "Commander Reyes, on behalf of the Luminary Alliance, I extend greetings. Your emergence has created what our historians would call a paradigm shift in our understanding of galactic history." "A polite way of saying we've caught you in a millennia-long lie," Commander Reyes responded evenly. The High Counselor inclined his head slightly. "Historical narratives evolve over time, sometimes obscuring uncomfortable truths. But we are here to address the present and the future, not merely the past." "The past matters," Leora said suddenly, unable to contain herself. All eyes turned to her, and she felt a moment of panic before continuing. "If we don't understand what really happened, how can we prevent it from happening again?" "The child speaks with wisdom beyond her years," one of the council members noted, her tone somewhere between impressed and condescending. "Leora of Illyria has demonstrated remarkable insight throughout this situation," Commander Reyes said, placing a supportive hand on Leora's shoulder. "I would suggest we all listen carefully to what she has to say." And so, improbably, a 10-year-old orphan from the Undercity found herself addressing the leaders of 2 civilizations, drawing on everything she had learned, from forbidden archives, from Dr. Saren's revelations, from her conversations with the Echo Omega crew. Leora spoke of the shared history that had been erased, of the fear that had driven both sides to conflict, and of the possibility of a different path forward. "Humans aren't just a threat from the past," she concluded. "They're people, with hopes and dreams and stories just like anyone in the Alliance. And the Alliance isn't just an enemy to humanity. It's the home of billions of beings who deserve to know the truth about their own history. As discussions continued over the next several hours, it became clear that neither side was willing to fully trust the other. Too much blood had been spilled, too many lies told, but neither were they eager to reignite ancient conflicts. A tentative agreement began to take shape. Echo Omega would be granted provisional status within the Alliance, neither fully integrated nor treated as hostile. Its crew would be allowed to awaken in stages, with appropriate support and resources provided. In return, humanity would share its preserved knowledge and culture, filling gaps in the historical record that had been intentionally or accidentally created over the millennia. "And what of those who facilitated this contact?" High Counselor Zarin asked, his gaze moving between Leora and Eric's. Their actions, while perhaps well-intentioned, violated numerous Alliance protocols. "They are under our protection," Commander Reyes said firmly. "As is Dr. Saren," Leora added, her young voice steady despite her fear. "She must be released." The High Counselor's expression was unreadable. "Dr. Saren has admitted to numerous violations of her oath to the Council, spanning decades. Her case is complicated." "Then uncomplicate it," Eric said boldly. "Her actions helped prevent conflict. She deserves mercy, if not gratitude." After further negotiation, a compromise was reached. Dr. Saren would be released from detention, but required to assist with the integration process, using her unique knowledge of both Alliance and human history to ease the transition. As the diplomatic party prepared to depart, Commander Reyes drew Leora aside. "You've done something extraordinary," she said quietly. "Not just finding us, but helping forge a path forward that doesn't end in destruction." "I just wanted to know if the stories were true," Leora replied. "If the Blue Star people were real." "And now you know we are," the commander smiled. "But this is just the beginning. There will be challenges ahead, cultural misunderstandings, lingering prejudices, practical difficulties in integrating two civilizations separated by millennia of development." "We'll figure it out," Leora said with the simple confidence of youth. "Together." In the months that followed, a new organization took shape, the Galactic Reconciliation Council, composed of representatives from both the Alliance and the gradually awakening human population of Echo Omega. Its headquarters was established in a previously unused section of Illyria's governmental complex, symbolizing the integration of human influence into Alliance affairs. Leora, despite her young age, was appointed as a special advisor to this council, her unique perspective valued by both sides. Eric's joined Echo Omega's engineering team, helping adapt Alliance technology to human needs while learning from the preserved knowledge of Earth's technological development. And Dr. Saren, her conscience finally unburdened, devoted her remaining years to correcting the historical record, ensuring that the true story of humanity and the Alliance would never again be erased. The integration was not without difficulties. Cultural clashes were frequent, misunderstandings common. Some members of both civilizations resisted the changes, clinging to old prejudices or fears. But gradually, as more humans awakened and more Alliance citizens learned the truth about their shared history, cooperation became the norm rather than the exception. 1 year after the first contact, Leora stood once again on the observation deck of Echo Omega. The ship remained in orbit around Illyria's moon, now accompanied by several Alliance vessels, not as guards, but as partners in the ongoing cultural exchange. The view had changed. Where once Illyria had seemed distant and untouchable, now regular shuttle traffic connected the planet to the human vessel, and beyond, barely visible at this distance. Construction had begun on what would eventually become New Earth, a colony for humans who preferred to live on a planetary surface rather than aboard Echo Omega. "Admiring your handiwork?" a familiar voice asked. Leora turned to see Eric's approaching, his engineer's uniform now bearing both Alliance insignia and the distinctive Echo Omega patch. "Just thinking about how much has changed," she replied. "A year ago, I was just a slum rat collecting scrap tech and chasing legends. And now you're a diplomatic liaison with your own quarters in the upper city," Eric's said with a smile. "Not bad for a year's work." Leora shrugged. "I still miss the Undercity sometimes. Things were simpler there." "Simpler? Maybe better?" "I'm not so sure." Eric's joined her at the viewport. Dr. Saren sent a message. "She's completed the first volume of her revised history. She wants you to review it before publication." "Me? Why?" "Because you're the one who started all this," he said simply. "You heard a voice in the darkness when everyone else had stopped listening. That makes your perspective important." Leora considered this, looking out at the stars beyond Illyria. Somewhere out there, she knew, other seed ships might still be traveling, carrying the remnants of humanity to distant systems. Perhaps someday, they too would find their way home, or forge new connections with civilizations yet unknown. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't picked up that signal?" she asked. "If I had just ignored it like everyone else?" "Sometimes," Eric's admitted. "But I think it was inevitable. If not you, someone else would eventually have heard them. The truth has a way of emerging, no matter how deeply it's buried." "I hope so," Leora said softly. "Because there must be other truths out there. Other stories we've forgotten or never knew." As if in response to her words, a notification chimed on the communication panel nearby. A new signal had been detected. Faint, distant, but unmistakably artificial. Not from Echo Omega or any known Alliance source. Another voice in the darkness, waiting to be heard. Leora and Eric's exchanged a glance. The same thought evident in both their expressions. The journey of discovery was far from over. It had, in many ways, only just begun. Looking out at the vast expanse of stars, Leora felt a sense of profound connection to the humans who had traveled so far and waited so long, to the Alliance citizens learning to embrace a more complex history than they had been taught, and to whatever new voices might be calling across the void. "We are still here," she whispered, echoing her first message to Echo Omega. Not just humanity, not just the Alliance, but all those who looked to the stars with wonder and hope. And the stars, it seemed, were finally answering back.